Why are food prices growing so quickly? Food is the necessity of everyone's life, but have you ever thought about why it is that as every decade passes, there is a massive increase in food price? Ever given a thought why? Well, today, I'll be taking a look at some of the basic things that contribute to why the price of food continues to increase rapidly, and if you stick around till the end, you'll find out what the governments are doing that surprisingly makes it worse. Now, although these reasons may appear to be very simple and at a level that you may have never thought of, they literally affect the price of food. So, let me break down the facts for you. Here we go. High oil prices. Food gets transported great distances and high oil prices raise shipping costs. You can expect high gas prices about 6 weeks after an increase in oil futures. Oil prices also can affect farming. Oil byproducts are a significant component of fertilizer. Climate change. Its cause is greenhouse gas emissions that trap heat, causing air temperatures to rise. Hot air absorbs more moistures. It rains less, water from lakes and rivers evaporates, and the land dries up. When it does rain, the water runs off the land instead of getting absorbed into the water table. That creates floods, which in turn can damage crops. Government subsidies. US government subsidies for corn productions for biofuel take corn out of the food supply, raising prices. The US now use a whopping 37% of its corn crop to make ethanol. That's up from 6% in 2000. World Trade Organization's limits on stockpiles. The World Trade Organization limits the amount of subsidized corn and wheat that countries add to global stockpiles. The United States, the European Union, and some developing countries heavily subsidize their agricultural industries. Farmers in those countries receive an unfair trade advantage. The WTO limits stockpiling to lower this edge, but it also reduces the amount of food available in a shortage. That increases food price volatility. More meat eating. People around the world are eating more meat, especially pork, as they become more affluent. It takes more grain to feed the animals needed to meat-based meals than is necessary for grain-based meals. Higher demand for meat means higher grain prices. Over time, this could offset lower US demand for meat and dairy. How calamities affect world food supply. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic sent food prices up by 3.3%. Most of this was driven by a 4.4% increase in meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. Dairy products, up 3.8%, were also a substantial contributor to the rise. The federal government declared a national emergency in March. Many people stocked on groceries and began cooking at home instead of eating at restaurants. This escalated demand for food at home. Exports and imports were disrupted as countries closed their borders to stop the spread of the virus. Food supply chains were constrained, leading to lower supply. In 2015, prices increased by 1.9% on average. Beef and veal prices rose 7.2%. Egg prices skyrocketed by 17.8% because of avian influenza, but fish and seafood prices dropped 0.9%. In 2014, food prices rose 2.4%. Prices of specific types of food rose thanks to weather conditions. For example, drought in the Midwest drove up beef prices by 12.1%. The California drought, one of the worst on record, resulted in higher prices for fresh fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Fresh fruit prices rose by 4.8%. In 2013, food prices rose 1.4%. Beef and veal prices rose 2%. The 2012 drought forced the farmers to slaughter cattle that had become too expensive to feed. It takes several months for commodities prices to reach the grocery store. As a result, most of the drought's effect occurred in 2013. The hardest hit were fresh vegetables and poultry, which rose 4.7%. In 2012, severe droughts increased food prices, which rose by 2.6%. Prices for beef, veal, and poultry rose significantly, but prices fell for fruits and vegetables. 15 reasons was higher transportation costs as oil prices hit their second highest price since 1987. That was caused by threats of military actions when Iran threatened the Strait of Hormuz. Agricultural markets. In historical terms, global agricultural prices has always been subject to strong fluctuations. This is related to the short-term characteristic of the agricultural markets, where supply is heavily dependent on the weather and demand is relatively stable. In recent years, agricultural prices have increased substantially. The prices for other raw materials such as crude oil have increased even more. Now that both agricultural prices and the price of crude oil are rising, the price of processed and unprocessed foods are higher. Population growth. In order to predict the prices of agricultural products in the future, it is important to take a look at the supply and demand. The demand for agricultural products is primarily determined by the growth in the populations and prosperity. For the coming decade, a decrease in population growth and robust economic growth are expected. This means an increase in the demand for agricultural products. In addition, the non-food demand is growing because biomass is replacing fossil raw materials as a fuel source. The supply of agricultural products depends on the area of the land used for agriculture and the yield per hectare. During the coming decade, a slight increase in the area of land used for agriculture and productivity are expected. Agricultural prices. The high agricultural prices are attributable to the combinations of the factors. A distinction may be made between the effects of supply, demand, policy, and other factors. Over the past several years, the supply of raw materials has dropped as a result of poor harvest caused by extreme weather conditions. Global stocks have also reached unprecedented low levels. The high oil prices are also affecting the food prices. The demands for raw materials has risen worldwide due to the developing economies. The interest in biofuels has also increased the demand for grains and oilseed. Protectionist measure. In response to the rising food prices, some countries are taking protectionist measures to limit the food price increase for their own consumers. On the global market, this often means a further increase in prices. The exchange rate of the US dollar also has an impact. Global prices are quoted in dollars and the value of the dollar has dropped against most other currencies. The price increase in dollars were even higher as a result. It is difficult to estimate the influence of speculations. That brings us to the end of the video. What are your thoughts? Are there any other reasons that you think I may have missed out on? Let me know in the comment sections below. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And also don't forget to hit that bell icon to never miss any updates from the Wealthy Brains.